This video covers how to create a P-chart using SSD4R. You can follow us on Twitter, hashtag SSD4R, no spaces, and also we could be found on Facebook. To begin with, we assume that you've already installed R and RStudio, and you've installed the SSD4R package. If you haven't, take a look at our videos on installing R and on installing or getting started with SSD4R. Once you've installed R, you can and RStudio, you can begin creating P-charts if you'd like. The other issue is that if you've installed working with R 3.0, make sure you're working with the patched version, because the official release has some incompatibilities with SSD4R, which have been corrected in the patched version. You can learn how to download the patched version and install it by looking at the videos on installing R. Okay. So once you have R and RStudio running, then you need to load the package. The easiest way to load the package is by clicking on the checkbox next to SSD4R. And now it's loaded. You could also, in the console, have typed require and between parentheses SSD4R and hit enter. Be mindful of the upper and lowercase characters. In other words, type it in exactly as you see it. The next step that you need to do is to download the example data, which is located on our website, SSD4R. So I'm going to go to my homepage, ssdanalysis.com. Here it is, ssdanalysis.com, and I'm going to right-click on the P-chart example, and I'm going to click on Save Link File As, and I'm going to save it on my desktop. And now query it to make a decision, and please click on Don't Append. We don't want to have .text appended to the file. And I'm going to do that again just to show you how it's done. Save link file as, and onto the desktop, and I'm going to click on Save and Don't Append. It's already there, so it's asking me to replace it. Okay, now if you're using Windows, you won't get that message. It'll just ask you to save target as. Okay, now I'm going to close the website page, and now we're ready to go. So we have to open the file. I'm going to open get CSV using get CSV, and open close parentheses, and I'm going to open the P-chart, which is on the desktop. And now you need to type attach SSD, and enter. And you could type list names, open close parentheses, and you'll get a list of the variables in the data set. And we have 3 variables: P truancy, truancy, and W truancy. I'll explain that to you in a moment. But also another command to list the variables. We have names, and name, and in between parentheses type SSD. It should be names, and enter. And now that will display the variable names in order they appear in the file. Now, truancy is a 0, 1 variable, whether they were truant or not truant, and W truancy is the week that they were truant, and P truancy is a phase variable, whether it was A or B, that is baseline or intervention phase. We're gonna today in this video we're gonna concentrate on truancy and W truancy, and you'll see that essentially what we'll be doing is we'll be essentially combining the weekly rate. That is, we have data for 7 days, and so for those 7 days it could be a 0 or 1. So now we'll be able to get the rate of the occurrence of ones, which represent that they were actually not truant, that they attended. So 0 would be negative, and 1 would be positive, that is, they actually attended. So we're really we're testing for truancy. Now we can get help on creating a P-chart by clicking on the hyperlink SSD for R, which I just did, and P-chart should be in alphabetical order, and here it is. So it's the SPC P-chart, and now we have a few different aspects in the help file. First, we have usage, which we're using our behavior variable, our grouping variable, and what level bands we want, that is 1 standard deviation, 2 or 3, and then we can label the various axes. And then I would also refer you to a really excellent article on using SPC charts in the social services by Orm and Cox. Okay, and there's also another example here which you could copy and type into the console. So let's take a look at these variables. Let's take a look at truancy by typing truancy, and you can see it, they're all 0s and 1s, right? And we have an NA here, which is a break, which means that the intervention phase begins. And let's type in let's type W truancy, which is the week of truancy. So you can see 1s represent week 1, week 2, so it goes to 15 weeks, and there are 4 weeks of baseline and 10 weeks of 11 weeks actually of intervention. And P truancy is phase variable, and so there is a or a letter phase for each one of the observations. So we have A's and B's. So we have a A-B design. Excuse me. So let's run the P-chart. So we see the command here, and be mindful of lower and uppercase. So we're going to type in P, capital P chart, and then we're going to type in the behavior variable, which is truancy, and then I'm going to type in the grouping variable, which is week. That's our sample. and type in W truancy, and you notice that they're separated by commas. And now how many bands I want, and I'm going to do 3 bands. I'm going to be use very stringent criteria. So you could use 1, 2, or 3. And now I'm going to type in for the X axis, I'm going to type in week to label it. I'm going to spell it right though. And then for the y-axis, I'm going to type in frequency. And for the main title, simply truancy. And let's see how it goes. If I spelled everything correctly, it should run. And sure enough, it did. And here we have the upper and lower bounds. So we could see that the process is working after the intervention, that there is really significant change after our intervention. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 observations. One on the third on the plus 3 U band, so that it seems like the process or the intervention is making some difference. Now we could annotate this graph using a few commands in SSD4R. We could put a line in separating the phases. So I'm going to type A, B, lines, and the behavior variable, which is truancy. I'm going to hit enter, and I'm going to place it between the 2 phases, a little closer to the intervention. And so now I have a line separating them, and I like that line, so I'm going to accept it, and I'm going to click back in the console and type Y and enter. Now I think I want to label the phases to make it very clear what they are, so I'm going to use the text command, AB text, and A in between quotation marks A, and I'm going to put the A right about here, and I'm going to accept that. If you aren't happy with the placement, you could also not accept it. So now I'm going to just press the up arrow to get back the previous command, and I'm going to change A to B, and I'm going to place the B right about here, and that's fine. And I'm going to click on Y, and now I think what I'd like to do is actually put the data on the various lines. So I think I'll use the end of the lines. So let's put on the mean first, and we could use that text command, AB text, and I'm going to put in the mean is 0.321, and notice it's between quotation marks, and hit enter, and the center line is the mean, and that's fine, and yes. Now I'm going to put in the upper band, and I'll just press page up, and I'll just replace that 0.321 with 0.861. And enter, and I'll place it on the blue line, which is the upper bound, and it's a little off, so I'm not going to accept that. I'm going to click again for no, and remove that. So I'm going to press the up arrow, get that back, hit enter, and now I'm going to place it there. Okay, I'm satisfied. And yes, and the lower, which is negative 0.218, so I'm going to change that to negative 0.218, and here we go, click it, okay. And now I'm going to accept that, and let's go to help for a second, and we'll come back to our graph. It'll still be there because you can go between the plots and packages and help. So I'm going to click on help, and then I'm going to click on index, and I want to alert you to the fact that you could put on an SPC legend. And but be careful, don't do that until you're satisfied with the graph, because once you do that you can't add anything else to the graph. So let's go back to the plot, and let's type SPC legend, and open, closed, gotta put in that D, open, closed, parentheses, and enter. And now it describes the various lines. Now that it's created, if you want to, you can copy to the clipboard by clicking on export, and copy plot to clipboard, and then click copy plot again, and you could go into Word or any other word processing program like Pages, for example, if you're using a Mac, and it will paste it into your word processor. That concludes the video for today.